Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow.
Take the message, everybody.
Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. 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 Take warning.
All right, hey, guess what? Don't panic. It's 12 minutes after 11 o'clock. It's the morning time, and so I just wanted the operator Lemon, who is still with us, mind you. We're still getting things going behind the scene. We are operating. We had some slight technical difficulties earlier in the week and even during last week, but our technical guys on the ground were able to do a great job. And thank you so much to our technical guys. I've noticed that the folks in the mid-morning show, they did a great job. They're getting bigger and better, mind you. Congratulations to Earl and his new co-host, Shay. They're doing a great job with the help of Andre and our chief technical guy, Josh. So congratulations to the morning crew. Uh, I kind of like that tune they were playing whenever they were talking about situations. Here comes in with, you hear lie? Good. That is lie. And here is where we'll begin this what is it? It's not even, it's almost midday, but I just thought that I come on live to share my opinions on on the situation back in Guyana, right? So good morning to all of you, and thank you so much for sharing the link. All right, so where do we begin? Where exactly do we begin? Now, let me take time out to acknowledge all of you, especially the regulars, so to speak. Savitri Rose, Ingrid Carter, Charlene, Rita, Michelle Justice, Brenda Casey, Melissa Smith, all of you. Good morning to all of you. Caroline Hinson, good morning. And I don't want to sound as though it's a Best by Request show. Many of you remember Pancho Carew on GBC, Best by Request. I believe it was Pancho, and then it was taken over by Rudy Grant, Eddie Grant's brother, who is from Plaisance. And I kind of like the part where Rudy Grant would say, not hit after hit after hit. No. Rudy Grant used to say on the Best by Request show, it after it. And I think, along with his brother Eddie, that famous saying, it after it, was able to put Plaisance on the map. Being a bit facetious there, but good morning to all the folks from Plaisance, all the folks from across beautiful Guyana, all the beautiful people in Golden Grove and the surrounding areas, Bacalus and Buxton, and all the other areas, including some of the friends that I have in Monrepo who might be listening as well. Good morning to all of you. Where do we begin this show? I notice our operator still has Irfaan on. Should we begin with Irfaan to counter his lies? Lies upon lies upon lies, because we've got to be straightforward with these guys. We can't allow them to bully us. We cannot allow them to basically brainwash us. And none of us on this program are prepared for that to ever happen at all. We know when these guys are lying. We know we know that they're attempting to divide Guyana, and it is not going to happen. And I'll say this to Irfaan Ali and all the other folks in the PPP who are watching at Office of the President, because they have no vision. They have nothing else to do. They sit down and they watch these shows night and day. If they don't watch this show, they watch other shows that are on that are exposing them. And when they're being exposed, their backs against the wall, then they have nothing else to say other than that we are the ones who are preaching racism, that we are the ones who are the bad guys. But for the world to see, we are broadcasting for the world to see. Let the world be the judge in all of this, right? Sensible people understand when we speak, it's nothing about division. It's nothing about propaganda. We present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And now let's get straight down to business. And that business happens to be the protest out on the east coast of Demerara. It's kind of like timely, right? Timely, I say, because people are hardly talking about Sue. They're hardly talking about the allegations that Sue has leveled against Jack Dale, according to Vice News, that Jack Dale is in the habit, mind you, allegations, again, I repeat, allegations of taking that Jack Dale takes bribe, corruption, and all these manner of things. Allegations, mind you, so it has died down, right? And they love that because it takes the attention, the bad attention, away from Jack Dale and the PPP. They love this. They love this new situation out there on the east coast of Demerara. in order to divert attention. But I'll get into that a little bit more. Um, I've noticed another thing. This guy was part of the Guardian of Democracy, fighting for democracy in Guyana, fighting for democracy. And his t-shirt says it all. And this is how we feel about those who are fighting for democracy. Take a close look on the letters there on his t-shirt and understand what I'm trying to say. For those who pretended that they were fighting for democracy. And this was one of the guys. And then look what it says here. Suspected drug trafficker arrested at Eccles' home with cocaine, ammunition. And, I'm sure that the 72 hours is about to be expired. 72 hours about to be expired. Let's see what happens from there, right? But while they're busy trying to probably charge that guy, they claim that they found drugs and ammunition. While they're getting ready to charge him, guess who walks out of his office and found his way on the east coast of Demerara, not in Golden Grove to console the family 2-3 weeks ago when that young man was murdered by a member of the Guyana police force. No, he rushed out of his office. I'm talking about the head of the Drug Enforcement Agency in Guyana, not the USDEA, mind you. Kanu, I'm talking about. James Singh, the drug boss, so to speak. Law enforcement officer, the drug boss for law enforcement officer, left his office, accompanied Irfaan Ali and the team to Monrepo. Now, the question is, why would the head of Kanu be in the midst of all of that with Irfaan Ali yesterday? Kanu, the head of Kanu, in the midst of what is happening on the east coast of Demerara? What does that have to do with his agency? You guys understand where I'm getting, right? What does that have? If I'm wrong, somebody tell me that I'm wrong. I can accept that sort of criticism, right? What is James Singh doing there, the head of Kanu, the drug agency in Guyana? What is he doing in Monrepo? If he can take the time out to visit Monrepo, obviously a political stunt. We are reading between the lines what's happening. Why is he there? In equal measures, if he has the time to leave his job, leave his office from Homestretch Avenue, the Kanu boss doesn't have time to go after the other big drug lords that are known around the country. They don't have time to go after that. They don't have time to sign the warrants for those who have to be extradited to the United States of America. They don't have the warrants for that, right? But they have the time to leave their office, James Singh, to go and observe what is happening in Monrepo. None of them going to Golden Grove to meet with the relatives of the young man who was murdered by a member of the Guyana police force under questionable circumstances, right? Murdered. None of them going to go there, but they want to come and pretend and play the politics, and people must buy into the politics. And when Irfaan Ali talks about one Guyana, and others want to distract and others want to divide. No, others don't want to divide. And if you listen to shows like and programs like these, you would see and you would observe that there's no evidence that our motive is to divide Guyana. At least I am not. And we here on 107.1 FM, we're not about the division of Guyana because it serves no good to us as Guyanese, because we're all connected somehow or the other. Even though some of them want to play the race card and all these manner of things, we don't encourage that. We don't tolerate that. All we talk about is the truth. All we seek is justice. All we ask for is fair play. And when we expose the regime, it is because they are doing things that are wrong to hurt people, not just persons of African descent. They're hurting Guyanese people, including some of their own supporters. However, the bulk of the target seems to be, and not just seems to be, there's sufficient evidence to point in the direction that African Guyanese are under attack by the installed PPP regime. What is wrong with that statement? Based on my opinion, based on what we're seeing, the evidence is out there that the PPP regime has no regards, no respect for persons of African descent. And we must say it like it is. We must not be afraid to say what the truth is. And if they don't like it, too bad. They could talk how much they want to talk about these sort of programs that we air, whether it's a Sherrod Duncan, whether it's a Kadaki Amsterdam, whether it's a Gavin Matthews, whether it's a Rickford Burke, regardless of what. Some of us have our own style, right? But we're all frustrated. We're all upset. We're annoyed because of the direction that the country is headed. And it appears as though we can't have an opinion, that we have to hug up and speak the language of the PPP. And anyone who doesn't speak the language of the PPP automatically becomes an enemy of the PPP, automatically becomes an enemy of Irfaan Ali. Well, if that be it, all of us then are in good company. Let us be the enemy of the enemies of Guyana. Let us be the enemies of those who are destroying Guyana. And we are trying to correct the wrongs. We're not in the pockets of individuals. We don't do things to get $1 million and $2 million per month, like how some of them who have access to a Facebook camera and they go on and a bunch of propaganda. You don't even understand what they're saying. They themselves don't even know what they're saying, but they're being paid to sit in interviews or so-called interviews and these sort of things. We are not like those types, not at all, right? All right, what else is happening that we can talk about before we get straight into the protest action and so forth? And let me take the time out to say David Hinds. I forgot Dr. David Hinds' show as well. Good evening to David. Good morning, sorry. Good morning to David Hinds, Dr. David Hinds, to people like Irfaan Ali, the Irfaan Alis of the world and the Jack Dales of the world. Folks who look like Dr. David Hinds, they have no value, they have no respect for folks who look like David Hinds. And here is why. Because David Hinds went to school. David Hinds is an adjunct professor, I believe. He went to school. He gained his PhD at a reputable and recognizable university. He did that. He's a doctor. He earned his PhD. And I am almost certain that nobody wrote his dissertation for him. Nobody did his exams for him. David Hinds is a bright guy and a son of the soil and someone who Buxtonians respect. And nobody, especially someone like Irfaan Ali, who has gone to questionable universities that probably do not exist, as we know one of them, IFLAT University. There's no university there. His PhD is questionable. His first degree has not been accounted for. All these manner of things, but yet that guy, Irfaan Ali, has the audacity to sit and disrespect someone like David Hinds. He wants to disrespect us. Because when you disrespect one who speaks the truth, you disrespect all of us. And therefore, all of us will come together as one. Not one Guyana, this facade and this fakeness about a one Guyana. We're talking about one in terms of respect and standing up for each other. And so today I stand in solidarity with Dr. David Hinds, a man who has been disrespected by Irfaan Ali, a thing like Irfaan Ali. All right, David, hope you're watching. Be strong. We are with you, 100%. We are with you. Now, the thing that we do on this show is we do not encourage the trench grapples to distract us. We do not. And that is why we're able to have decent and respectable discussions every day. Now, we don't mind people who disagree. And some of us, I know, some of you who support me on this show, disagree with me sometimes, but you do it in a respectful manner. And if the trench crappos want to be respectful in disagreeing, we have no problem with that. It is democracy. And that is what we believe in, democracy. Again, I'm looking at some of your comments. Yes, we stand in solidarity with David Hinds. He's an honorable man. I don't agree with David all the time, but sometimes, a lot of times I agree with him because we are on the same side of the struggle. And the struggle must continue, regardless of what they think and what they say and how they describe us. We just don't give a damn. All right, so what else is it that I want to show you guys the hypocrisy, and I'll break it down for you. Let us begin first with this guy. This is the policeman who is under what they say open arrest. And some of the police, they're attempting to brainwash people. I saw one police officer out on the East Coast, maybe I think it's Golden Grove, and trying to explain what an open arrest is. And he himself doesn't know or have the definition of an open arrest. He is saying that the policeman, there. No, they're saying he there, right? But legally, if someone is on an open arrest warrant, that person by law should not be confined. The law says that. Anybody can be on an open arrest warrant. It simply means it is open, that when the time comes for that person to be arrested, then that warrant will be executed. As simple as that. So nobody can be in an open arrest and in custody. None whatsoever. Now, look, I've studied law, but I haven't gone to law school. I'm not a law graduate. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I know sufficient. And it's basically common sense. If a police officer is on a close arrest, it simply means that they're right there, supposed to be in custody. That is why the mother of this policeman, this accused murderer, the mother filed a habeas corpus. And a habeas corpus is basically to have the court, the police has to produce this individual. And if the police cannot charge him within 72 hours, then he has to be released. Now, it's fairness. People want to fight, and the mother of this murder accused is fighting for her son. It's okay. I don't have a problem with that, right? It's fine. But the disrespect of the police in terms of saying what an open arrest is. So the legal battle right now is for him to be released from custody because 72 hours has expired. The police is now claiming that he's on, an open arrest. He's not in custody. Open arrest doesn't mean he's in custody. He is not in custody. And therefore, the police need to stop lying to members of the public. They need to stop lying to family members of Mr. Bacchus, who was killed under questionable circumstances by this cop. According to reports, mind you, according to reports. All right? So that's out of the way for now. And now let's touch on the investigations, right? Irfaan is claiming that this investigation will be concluded next Monday. Next Monday, right? He knows that for sure, that next Monday. I don't know how he knows specifically that it's going to be concluded next Monday, but yet in the same breath, he's saying it's an independent investigation. Now, there's no investigation right now that's being conducted by the police that anybody in their right mind would consider to be an independent investigation. Again, I want to say, just to repeat, so some of you who may not have heard that the OPR, which is the Office of Professional Responsibility, that is doing their investigation as well. It is headed by a former senior member of the Guyana Police Force, and all of the staff members who are investigators are either serving members of the Guyana Police Force or former members of the Guyana Police Force. That is the sort of independent investigating investigations that these guys are talking about. How independent? And who is Irfaan Ali fooling? Who exactly is Irfaan Ali fooling? We see the Krapos are out, the Krapos bumps raising. They can't say anything that makes sense. It's always bar rum shop mentality, and we see the rum shop mentality already, right? And our operator Lemon has done the right thing. Just throw them in the trench. Do not be hesitant. Do not waste time with them. We're not here for this sort of nonsense, rum shop gap and rum shop cuss up. And gosh, isn't it too early for that rum shop mentality, right? It's way too early for that. Now, this here, let's head now to the PCA. This might be confusing to you guys, right? Because number one, the OPR has to do an investigation. When the OPR does its investigation, then that file is reviewed by the legal counsel for the police, right? And then when that is done, it is sent to the DPP. The DPP has to review the files. And guess what the DPP usually does, especially in cases like these? Guess what? They send the file back to the police for more information. That's stalling time. They've done it on numerous occasions, including this last case, the Orange Boston one, right? The file is never ready. Now, let's get to the PCA. Don't be confused. The PCA has been around since 1989. I believe they amended the Constitution that included the PCA, which is the Police Complaints Authority, and it became official, effective into law in 1990. All right, there have been many heads of the Police Complaints Authority. That is what they have, and they also have that legal authority to review police matter, mainly police killings. They have that legal and constitutional authority to do that. Don't be mistaken, they do, because it's a constitutional agency. And that head of the agency right now is former Justice of the Supreme Court in Guyana, former Justice William Ramlal. William Ramlal is the head of that agency. William Ramlal. And I know William Ramlal very well. And if you ask me whether he's a man of justice, sometimes it appears that way, but in my opinion, there are lots of question marks. And this has nothing to do with because when the trumped-up treason charge against me was laid, and in 2002 and 2003, when the matter was sent back to court by the DPP, I was number 13 on the list of 31 persons, and William Ramlal was the judge because they threw my mat in front of so many judges. William Ramlal was one of them. He refused to hear my matter, even though it was at number 13 on the list, but they went all the way to number 31, 29, 30, and so forth, and deliberately bypassed yours truly. Now, I'm just using that as an example to say that I am suspicious. I am suspicious because of personal experience with William Ramlal. I am suspicious about him, that I am not sure that the family will get the justice that they so deserve. Now, don't get me wrong. It could be based on the evidence that I don't know where the investigators are coming from for the PCA, but I would be surprised if the PCA finds that a murder charge should be instituted against the police in question. I'll be surprised because I don't think that he really is out for justice, when in fact there's so many examples. I've just given you one of injustice against individuals while he was sitting there as a high court judge. Now, the other issue is, and I'm not sure whether this has been corrected or not. I'm just not sure whether it has been corrected, right? that sometime last year, we were told that by him, Ramlal, through Stabrook News, that his contract was expired since then. This was since in October of last year, 2021, right? It was expired. And this guy, this is how it operates in Guyana. If your contract is expired, a lot of times these guys don't want to go. So they will write to whoever the president is, whoever. And in this case, we know we have a puppet, and we know we have someone who has been installed sitting in that capacity. So William Ramlal wrote to Irfaan Ali, begging Irfaan Ali to extend his contract. In other words, please give me another 3 years. 3 years. Each month, he receives a total of 1.4 million Guyana dollars. Every month, $1.4 million. Duty-free concessions every 3 years. A brand new vehicle, whatever it is. Then he gets a driver. Then he gets security. Then he gets travel allowance. Then he gets gas allowance. Then he gets entertainment allowance. All these manner of things. So that's sweetness. That's sweetness that these guys get. They don't want to leave it. They don't want to let it go. So he now wrote to Irfaan Ali, begging Irfaan to extend his time for 3 more years. The AG, the guy who sits there as AG, Anil, said to the media, Stabrook News, that renewal of Ramlal's contract should have been signed. In other words, his contract should have been renewed. To date, unless I missed it, I haven't seen anything in the press to suggest that his contract was renewed. And by virtue of not being able to see or any follow-up to this story, I would have to assume that Mr. Ramlal, retired Justice Ramlal, his contract is still not renewed. Unless we get some sort of report that it is renewed. Now, here's why this is important. When you don't have a contract, when it is not renewed, then you'll have to be extraordinarily careful, in what your decision or decisions are going to be. And in this particular case, William Ramlal, retired judge, will not want to rock the boat. Hence my reason for suggesting, my opinion, that this is going to end up as a manslaughter case. I'd be surprised if it's murder. A manslaughter case. Again, I'd be surprised if it's murder. And immediately following that, if his contract is not already renewed, we will hear that his contract is renewed and he will continue to get that handsome salary at the end of the month of $1.4 million and all the other benefits that they're getting. Just like Charles Ramson Sr. Charles Ramson Sr. is using his own property on East Street to conduct some commissioner of public or something like that, where members of the public who have an issue with the regime could go into his office. It's a constitutional office. All of these constitutional offices, some of you may be confused with it, but once you are appointed to a constitutional office, you cannot be removed. You cannot be fired unless you do something really, really outrageous. Outside of that, Charles Ramson Sr. has been receiving over $1 million a month for over 5, 6, 7, or 8 years. The question is, what does he do? I just thought I included that, right? I noticed some of you, Beverly Wilson. Good morning to you, Beverly. $1.4 million. $1.4 million. Oh, yeah. That's what they receive. $1.4 million. But you check what the investigators, if they have investigators, you check who the investigators are. Because, look, it's a constitutional office. The public, we need to know. We're paying taxes. We need to know who the investigators are. How many investigators the Police Complaints Authority has. And that is where the media steps in there in Guyana. The journalists, the reporters should be asking these questions to retired Justice Ramlal. One, Mr. Ramlal, has your contract been renewed? That's one. Secondly, how many investigators your office has? 3, 4, 5, 1. Mind you, it is the same Ramlal who not so long ago complained that he is understaffed, that they don't have investigators, or that they are in need of investigators. Now, in this important matter, as this murder case they're investigating, he said that it should wrap up shortly. Irfaan Ali said that on Monday, right? Ramlal said shortly. Irfaan said on Monday. That's almost 3 weeks since the young man, over 3 weeks since the young man was murdered. But we're hearing that the investigations, according to Irfaan, next week, Monday. It could be out before then. But like Irfaan doesn't want it to be out before then. And since Irfaan says on Monday, I'd be surprised if that report is out before Monday. Ramlal wouldn't want to rock the boat. But it's time that we find out what is happening at the PCA, the Police Complaints Authority, and who those investigators are. You might be surprised. Just my opinion. You might be surprised. Good morning to all of you guys. What else? What else can we, Roberto Gonzalez, yep, good. Is it afternoon? It's still morning. Good morning to you. Somebody's saying Monday is a holiday. Well, it shouldn't stop them from giving their report, right? I noticed Miss Casey is asking a valid question here. What's the investigator's qualifications? We don't want anyone's relatives who aren't qualified for the job. Precisely. That is why it's important that the reporters or journalists in Guyana could call William Ramlal right now. He has that right to report to the public. It's a constitutional office. The citizens want to know. Do you have investigators? Okay. How many investigators do you have? Good. You got 3. Who are those investigators? He can say it is not public for public knowledge. It is. We need to know who those investigators are. Are they former policemen? Are they relatives of whomever? We need to know. For all you know, one of the investigators could be related to the cop. For all we know, they could be former colleagues. We don't know as yet. And that's why it's important that those guys ask the question. Those questions. All right, we'll move off from Mr. William Ramlal. I notice Timolin. Hi, Timolin. How are you? Saying Monday will come and go and nothing will be done. They're just saying that to calm the people down. I suspect that the report will be out. Of course, they usually say these things to calm people down, but people are no longer that naive, right? People are no longer that naive. I suspect that a report will be out before Monday. Again, that's just my opinion. What else is happening that you guys want me to talk about since I've been given a few minutes to speak? Irfaan Ali says, will ask National Assembly to decry political violence, deplores death threats against him. Now, Irfaan Ali is concerned about supposed death threats against him by this guy who I have been watching some stuff on social media, and people who know him seem to believe that he's not far off from Irfaan and Jagdir and all the crew there in the PPP, that he's mentally insane. This guy, now I don't know him personally. That's what people who know him, they have been saying on social media. In other words, as they say in Guyana, madman, right? So here what Irfaan Ali is doing. He moves away from the real issue. He's moving away from the real issue to say, look, look, look. You know how he likes to do up his hands and ting up for some apparent reason. I don't know why. Look, 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 look. He's playing the victim role here now, this victim game now, right? That he is the victim in all of this here. He becomes the victim, and so he wants his supporters to feel sorry for him and all manner of things. Now, let me get this straight. I don't think anybody should be threatening anybody. I honestly don't think so. And nobody in their right mind would go out publicly and say that they want to do this, whether it's against Irfaan or whomever. That should not be condoned. And if people have their quiet thoughts, that's their business. But the minute it gets into public domain, that is where I would say I do not condone those sort of threats. But this obviously doesn't appear to be a legitimate threat because the individual himself, his mental capacity is questioned at this time. People who know him say he's a madman. Now, Irfaan Ali running away now with what a supposed madman has said, so that people could feel sorry for him. Oh, look what they want to do, Abibai. Look what they want to do, Irfaan. That is what he's doing. He's not showing any sorrow, any sort of showing that he's remorseful for something at all. The real victim is Mr. Bacchus, who was murdered by a member of the Guyana police force under questionable circumstances. That guy is the real victim, not Irfaan Ali and this BS that he's coming out with, that somebody threatened his life and that, you know what he wants to do, and that the police should investigate. So he's instructing the police already what to do. So what are they going to do? Go and pick up a madman? And that the person who was doing the interview or going live didn't do anything. And what do you want the person who was doing the live to do? You want to run after a man who is said to be mad? Huh? To defend you, Irfaan Ali? Now, I'm sure the moderator, whoever the moderator is, because up to now he can't say who the moderator is, right? I am sure that the moderator wouldn't condone such comment. I have seen and heard a comment when Travis Trace did a live, and Travis Trace kind of like dismissed and said that's not acceptable here. And good job to Travis Trace. What more Irfaan Ali wants people to do? What more? Huh? Irfaan, you need to stop playing the victim role, the victim game. It is not going to happen. When some of your friends in the Guyana police force were sitting and plotting with a questionable businessman to assassinate then sitting President David Arthur Granger, you didn't have a mouth for that. When there was violence, political violence in the country, you didn't rush and say anything about National Assembly to decry political violence and all these manner of things. You didn't say that you deplore death threats against David Arthur Granger, the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, people who are planning, members of the Guyana police force who were allegedly part of a plot to kill, to assassinate David Arthur Granger. That is where the real threat was. I've noticed that Silal Prasad, the former commissioner of police, in some book talking about the plot and all these sort of things. These guys, trust me. Oops. You know what I mean? Now, look, he wants us to feel sorry, but some madman issue. Now, again, I'm not condoning what was said. But you look at the mental capacity of the individual. Well, not Irfaan in this instance, because we already know his mental capacity. We're talking about this guy, said to be a madman. What are they going to do? Pick up the madman? Lock him up? And say that he confessed to a crime? Because all Irfaan wants to do is to prove a point that he's tough? Give me a break. Give me a break, right? Oh, gosh, these guys are something else. Every day they and these guys call themselves presidents and all this. Is that what they call themselves? All right, let's move away from this guy. Whoever this guy is, pray for him. What he said is not acceptable publicly. Now he can have his own private view, private opinion. That's his thing. I'm not going to go after anybody and for their private views, but as long as you bring it on social media and in a median thing, it has to be corrected and not be tolerated, right? And no one should be tolerating those sort of threats, whether it's against Irfaan Ali, whether it's against David Granger, whether it's against Aubrey Norton, whomever it's against, it should not be tolerated at all. All right. But this guy's a madman. He needs help. Maybe some people say Irfaan needs help too. But let's move away from that now. I want you to listen to what Irfaan Ali has to say. We'll get to that. At his press conference, what is it that he was saying? And I want you guys to be the judge of these things, his own words, mind you, not ours, but in his own words. If our operator can just let us get that, go to that so-called, so-called message to the public by Irfaan Mohammed. I don't know why he doesn't use his first name. Mohammed Irfaan Ali.
On the East Coast corridor. I returned last night to Guyana, and this morning I saw the action on the East Coast public road in relation to the death of Mr. Bartos. As you're aware, this is a matter that occurred some time ago, in which the police is accused of using excessive force.
All right, let's stop there. Let's stop there for a moment. He said some time ago this happened. He has never spoken out about that. He has never offered any words of comfort to the family members of Mr. Bacchus. None whatsoever. And now he's talking about excessive force, allegedly. Excessive force. Key word, excessive. Allow him to speak. Operator.
Resulted in the death of Mr. Bacchus. Based on the laws, and in order to ensure an impartial investigation, the necessary sections of the Constitution that provides for the Police Complaint Authority to supervise an investigation in conjunction with the OPR must kick in. I'm advised that that process has commenced. And that
here's where he's a goat. He doesn't understand the law. He doesn't understand his function, even though he sits there in that capacity. He doesn't understand it. The Police Complaints Authority has no moral authority or no legal right to work alongside the Office of the Professional Responsibility. The Police Complaints Authority is an independent body. They don't have to work along with the police, neither do they have to work along with the OPR. Something Irfaan Ali doesn't know. He doesn't understand. And why aren't we not surprised?
That process has made tremendous progress. I'm further advised that very early in the new week, the Police Complaint Authority, retired Justice Ramlal, the chair, will be in a position to present their findings and investigation based on investigation to the DPP. I'm urging the residents who are on the road to please stick to the facts. Do not be misled by any social media posting or any information that is not.
What are the facts? He believes that they are the only ones who have the monopoly to speak on what is their interpretation of facts. What is he getting at? People for over 2 weeks, family members and friends and supporters of the family who are calling, who are seeking justice for the young man who was murdered under questionable circumstances. Those are the facts, Irfaan. And that is why people have been crying out for over 2 weeks for justice. And you and your quote-unquote government have been quiet on the issue until now. So don't come and tell people about facts. Operator, let him continue.
Verified For example, what triggered this is a news item that the police who were implicated in this were released. That very news agency I've seen now has apologized for that misleading release. They have apologized for putting the wrong information out there, as this is far from the truth. I've been advised that not only is that police in custody.
One second. So the news reporter is an editor for an online news entity, mind you, that is oftentimes pro PPP, oftentimes pro PPP, right? But notice he hasn't mentioned anything about that that news online news agency, nothing at all. But had it been a news, and I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from with this, right? Had it been a news entity that they deemed to be anti-PPP, then they would have been able to share the information about who the reporter is, quote unquote reporter is, or editor-in-chief, who issued that so-called wrong report according to Irfaan Ali. His name is Ronald Singh, right? But of course, there will be nothing else said about that news entity. But let us touch quickly on what is the false report. He's not saying to you guys what exactly is the false report, but he's saying then that the news entity has since apologized. Of course, he would say that, but he's not going to tell you guys what is that false report. Let's continue.
But there is a second police in custody who's assisting with investigation. We must allow the system and the institution to work and complete their responsibility. This is independent. This is an independent process, and I'm assured by the chairman who have advised me that very early in the new week, he's hoping that by Monday, he'll be in a position to present his report to the DPP. Therefore, based on the facts, one, there was a misleading news item this morning. The police are still in what they term the open or close arrest. They are not large, they are not released. That is totally not true. So there is no basis for the type of action on the road that we're seeing now.
All right. First of all, he's again confused on what an open arrest is or what a close arrest is. Let me remind him, in the event that he's watching, an open warrant against a person means they can be arrested anytime. There is no basis, there is no legal grounds for a person who is under open arrest or on an open arrest warrant that person should be in custody. It is false. It is wrong. It is legally wrong. So I hope Irfaan gets that. Who can be on an open arrest and still be in custody? Who? Who are these guys trying to fool? An open arrest doesn't mean that this cop is in custody. It simply means that at any point in time, at the end of the investigations, he can be arrested. But for now, he is not in custody. There is no legal basis to have the cop in custody as long as he's on what is called an open arrest. That is why his mother went to the court to file an habeas corpus for him to be released after the 72 hours was expired. The 72 hours expired, they had to, the court ruled that he should be released from custody. So he is not in custody. Again, Irfaan Ali, they need to stop lying to the public. Open arrest doesn't mean that the individual is in custody, unless it's a different meaning for that in Guyana, right? So the question is the accused murder cop really in custody on an open arrest? Is that what Irfaan Ali is attempting to say to us?
The report will be presented on Monday and be available for the public, for the news, to inquire factually what the report says. So I'm asking residents to please go home, to please clear the roadways, and to please allow the system.
Oh, I wish that advice to other folks who were protesting. I wish this advice would have been the same. I wish it would be consistent across the board. But it seems as though only one section of the population, once they are protesting, and you know who those folks are, right? Once they are protesting, it is always bad, and they got to clear the road, and they got to go home, and all manner of things, right? But the hypocrisy, mind you. Continue. You'll hear more hypocrisy coming from this guy who is good at that.
The world. All of us want justice. All of us want fairness. But we cannot base our action on misleading information. The other issue is it has been brought to my attention by a number of stakeholders about a video in circulation that was basically televised or shown on a social media platform with great viewership, in which a direct, not threat, a direct statement was made that we will kill the president. There was no condemnation by the one who was doing the live at that moment. This is also unacceptable. This is unacceptable.
Let me say to Irfaan Ali what is also unacceptable, right? I want to say to Irfaan Ali what is also unacceptable. You know what is also unacceptable? Is when you, Irfaan Ali, stays quiet in the face of police brutality and extrajudicial killings in the country. There's no sympathy, there's no condemnation about these things coming from you nor your regime, Irfaan Ali. So these things have a twofold, you know. You can't expect people to rush to your defense to condemn a situation when you stay silent in the face of them crying out and bawling out for justice. It doesn't happen like that, Irfaan Ali. It just doesn't happen like that at all. Not in these times. No, no.
In a democratic society. But I want to assure all the stakeholders that that is a separate issue. And that issue must also be subject to the investigation by the Guyana Police Force. But as of this primary issue that I'm focused on, the facts are the police officers are...
Mind you, heard what he said. There must be in other words, he's telling the police. And he's saying in one breath that it's independent. He's telling the police that there must be an investigation. And a madman, as people who know the individual know him to be a madman who alleged those threatening remarks or whatever. He says that it's not threatening. And that's what he says. He says he himself, he's contradicting himself. And he's directing the police into ensuring that they do an investigation. Let him continue. The usual rhetoric.
Still in custody. The report and investigation is on.
Wait a minute. If the police is in an open arrest, how then can the police still be in custody? And that is what I'm trying to figure out. Open arrest doesn't mean that the individual got to be in custody. It simply means that the individual is free to go. Any lawyer who attended a half-baked law school knows that, Irfaan. But in your situation, we know you didn't go to law school. We're not even sure what university you attended, right? So we don't expect you to know these sort of things. Do we have any lawyer here? Or maybe I should give a lawyer a call to find out exactly. And you know that person, I always go to I always go to Nigel Hughes, or I'll call one of the lawyers here, forward or one of them, to find out really what, because I'm not stupid like Irfaan and these guys. Certainly not, right? Um, Not at all. So let us continue. I'm told that the policeman is not in. We'll take a quick 30 seconds and be back. Sorry
Ongoing
about
and
that.
in progress, and the Police
Okay,
Complaints
1 second.
Authority Chair, retired Justice Ramlal, is hoping very early in the new week or by Monday that report can be completed and handed over to the DPP. So there is no basis at this moment for the type of behavior we are seeing on the road. As your president, I assure you that at all times, I would work to ensure there is justice and fairness in the system. I ask
All right, I must apologize for that break in transmission. It was intended to have attorney at law Nigel Hughes to give a quick comment. Mr. Hughes, earlier I spoke of what an open arrest is, knowing very well that I'm not a lawyer, but I just offered my opinion. I may have been wrong, but can you guide us, please, on what a definition of an open arrest is?
Okay, so Mark, thank you. There's no specific definition. What it means, however, is where an officer, a serving officer of the Guyana Police Force, is accused of an illegality, and as a result of that accusation, he is detained by the police, not like a civilian, but by virtue of his being a serving member of the Guyana Police Force. And what that means is that in practical terms, he is kept at a station or a location, not placed in the cells, but he is in the custody of the police as a police officer, as opposed to when a citizen is arrested and placed in custody, they are placed in custody. Invariably placed in a cell. That's what physically happens, but they're placed in custody as a suspect who has broken some law. So that the comparison that you may want to make is a serving police officer is arrested by his own, i.e. the Guyana Police Force, and he's treated as an officer of the Guyana Police Force, but not as a civilian. So that's what's called an open arrest. And they do this because this also happens with the military, and they do this under the respective pieces of legislation that indicate how in this case, the Guyana Police Force or the Guyana Defense Force treat with one of their own when there's an allegation of a transgression of the law.
And I know you're quite busy because the family member filed a habeas corpus for the accused to be released since he hasn't been charged after 72 hours. You have just outlined the legal base. I mean, the reason why one should be kept under this open arrest. But is there any legal basis to hold someone in an open arrest?
So the habeas corpus would I believe, sharply indicate what the differentiation is. I gather it was refused, but what invariably happens is if a police officer or a member of the military is detained under the specific legislation, which permits them to serve that military institution, they will go and say, we have not detained this person as a civilian, we've detained him as one of our own, and there's specific procedures that indicate how that person should be treated.
And I know you're busy, but is not what they do under close arrest?
Under what, sorry?
Close arrest. When a police officer is on close arrest.
Actually, I know it is close. I'm not sure that there's a practical difference between close and open.
I got you.
So I couldn't assist you in that, but I'm afraid.
You're the lawyer. I'll go with what you say, but thank you as always so much, Nigel. And I've noticed that you've sent out a release that your law firm is not representing the accused at all. Thank you. Nice hearing from you, Nigel. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right, attorney at law Nigel Hughes. Like I've said, he's the lawyer. My take on what an open arrest is just my opinion, my take. A lot of people, and thanks to Nigel, I'm not going to refute what Nigel has said. He's the learned person here legally. And so in Guyana, we already know what it is. And there are a lot of folks who are of the view that the policeman in question is not, that's the people's views, is not in custody. But let's continue with Irfaan Ali and his political rhetoric.
As your president, I assure you that at all times, I would work to ensure there is just and fairness in the system. I ask you to go home. I ask you to allow the system to work. And I ask you to await the report. Let the institutions work. For those who are instigating this for selfish reasons, you have seen the damage that you're causing. Not only damage to society, but threats to the life of the president.
Forget about threats to the life of the president. Notice he's harping on that all the time. Threats to the life of the president. What about the young man who lost his life? Family members are seeking justice, Irfaan. Threats to the life of the president. What about a young man on social media talking about killing out all African Guyanese and poisoning them and all these manner? Are you going to come out and condemn that? Is your Minister of Home Affairs going to come out and condemn that, Irfaan Ali? Don't harper on just the life of the president. You know, he's just trying to gain sympathy. That is all. And no one is going to be sympathetic. At least I am not. Now, I'm not saying anyone has that right to go publicly and call on the death of anybody, whether it is Irfaan Ali or anybody. No one person is more important than the other, Irfaan. You're not more important than the other persons who are being threatened and their lives in danger. You're not more important than them. So don't try with this sort of victim role and, the life, threaten the president. Like what? People, every day they threaten. Every day your supporters threaten me, some of them. But I want them to continue doing it publicly and continue to send me those messages privately. And I'm sure the other guys are getting it as well, Dr. David Hinds and so forth. When are you going to condemn those sort of things, right? But no, you want people to feel sorry for you and condemn some madman who did something, Again, I'm not saying what the madman did was right publicly. No, Irfaan, I'm not saying that is right. But stop harping on that as though you know the victim. What about Bacchus' family who are mourning? Let's continue.
It's unacceptable. My dear Guyanese brothers and sisters, as your president, I'm asking you, do not be misled, do not be used. I understand the hurt, but let the system work.
What system?
Let us await the outcome of the system, and let us not get emotional and act out of...
What system? Under the PPP, the system is broken, Irfaan. It is broken. You do not want the system to work. Too much division in the country. Every single day we see the racial discrimination. The discrimination because of persons who are members of another political party and so forth. We're seeing it every day. What nonsense are you talking, Irfaan? You only want the system to work when people praise you and your regime? Is that how a democracy works? That people must praise you and that is when the system works? And then when people have been calling for justice over 2 weeks now, and the system didn't show any sign of working, but because the people took to the streets, which they have every right to do, not only one set of people could take to the streets. And then when this set of people take to the streets, seeking justice, calling out for justice, you and your goons have all sorts of names to call them. from hooligans to thieves and all manner of things. I don't know.
Turn based on reports that are not grounded in the truth and facts. I thank all of you, and I hope that this message reaches you and that all of us will act responsibly, and you will now go home and await this report. I thank you very much, and God bless all of us.
Yeah, that is what it's about, right? Go home. Just go home. He rushed out to Monrepo. Then he rushed out to somewhere in Buxton, where he insulted David Hinds, a son of the soil, a respectable son of the soil, right? David Hinds has never had 19 fraud charges against him. He's never been blocked from entering Canada and so forth and so on. Never. He gone into Buxton, but he hasn't reached at Golden Grove. He hasn't picked up the phone. Right? He hasn't picked up the phone to call the family members of Mr. Bacchus. None whatsoever. They haven't done that. And they're not going to do that because it's not in his DNA to show that sort of compassion. He's not going to do it. So why should we expect that? Right? Why should we expect that from him? He's not going to do it. It's not going to happen. And so he wants to play this victim role now, this victim game, right? That, oh, look what's going on here. You know, the trenches coming out. One of them saying, no, man, that is right in your eye. No respect for the president. You sit and talking like you don't have understanding. You all getting the young people, shaming them. Shame on. Too early to get drunk. Like I've said, it's way too early. You know, you give respect, you get respect in return. And this guy, your president is dividing Guyana. That is what I'll say. I have absolutely no apologies for that. The evidence is clearing. And for those of you blind individuals who don't want to see it, of course, we know why. And we understand the reason why you don't want to agree with what is being said on this show. But we thank you all for listening anyways. One other thing quickly before I go. We are seeing the bar guys, the rum shop dwellers are out now, right? The rum shop dwellers are out in full force. The rum shop brigade are out in full force, right? But let's go to this video here.
Two children, 28 and 29, never get a master in the government, never a job. And all the old minister get a job, Eccles Milling. And you go tell me to God, this a time to pick up and pack up and go. No vote. In Batali, no vote. No vote, no vote. And your government is suffering. In greater time, it never suffer so. Yes, but they're going to protest peaceful and this one come broke up your market in front of all them. You go tell them, go back and vote. 5 votes lose for the house. I ain't getting a thing. School children get money, disabled get money, what again? I be $2 where you sell 3 4 for 2 weeks now a day. You got to pay passage and pay rent. God. How much you pay for?
You know, that's the truth. People are hurting. People are hurting. Guyanese are hurting, irrespective of your ethnic background, whatever it is. People are hurting. And this is the one Guyana Irfaan Ali is talking about. What one Guyana? You know, that's the question. What one Guyana? You know, take a look at this guy. And our operators ensure that we're not on the air. We're not broadcasting. I repeat, this here got some very colorful language, colorful words, sorry. We're not broadcasting via 107.1 FM. This is just a Facebook platform. I just want to make that clear, mind you. All right, so we're not going to violate any laws here at all. Is Irfaan Ali and his guys, are they going to address this issue? Again, if you have kids around, just turn the volume or send them out of the room to hear the nonsense from a guy who's black like tar, and who's dunce like a bat. Hear what he has to say.
And the fucking next thing is, police now against fucking police. Here's the next thing. The fucking police, them all look like a fucking thief. Yeah, black man just like fucking jump out. Yeah, fucking Matty black man, shoot you like Matty black man. Your mother's gonna get fucking sense, eh? The fucking man down there in Ghana. Oh, mother's gonna is the policeman. Yeah, gotta look for. Kill the police out. No fucking cool the people do ya not. Is yeah, old Matty black man shoot a Matty black man. And your mother's gonna go from fucking racist now, eh? And your mother's gonna dotage bad black man. And your mother's gonna get sense. Like I can never fucking go school. I need to go fucking school. And your mother's gonna dotage bad. I never see fucking black man so yet. Eh, burning fucking road, burning up fucking people vehicle. But hey, black people and pies and your mother's gonna out keep a party. And fucking make sure you invite all of your mother's gonna all the black man in this country. Cook and get your mother's gonna fit and show pies in your fucking food and get you dead out of your mother's gonna. After I can't get no fucking sense black man. Me said I am known as fucking guys up on TikTok. I kill all your mother's cunt out if I get the fucking chance to kill black man. I shoot all of your mother's cunt out.
And Irfaan is concerned about a madman. That guy is no madman. I've sent that video to the Commissioner of Police, hoping that they're going to go after that little wretch, hoping that they're going to arrest him, hoping that Irfaan Ali would see this and condemn it. Not only talk about some threats a madman made against him, and as though the entire Guyana got to stop, come to a standstill. Look at what that guy just said. Of course, he's a tar baby. He is in no position to call people black man. He's black, black, black. He's in absolutely no position to call people uneducated, because it is quite obvious that the furthest he probably went to school was probably maybe 2 or 3 months at some nursery school. You can tell already. You can tell. You can tell. But that's what's happening in the country. And they're not going to condemn it. They're not. Irfaan, they're not going to condemn it. But you let it, you let us say that was actually somebody who's whiter than that little black boy just now. That little black face boy just now, right? That little black face boy. That's really a little black face boy calling people black man and can't even speak properly. Gosh. And then Irfaan talking about violent protesters and nothing is wrong with protesting. You got to protest peacefully, right? Peacefully. I know Irfaan is watching, and I agree with Irfaan that people should be protesting peacefully, right? People should be protesting peacefully, including Irfaan Ali. You saw that, right? You saw that. You saw that. And yet he wants people to behave peacefully. Yeah, peacefully. You could tell the demon spirit coming out of these guys. Gosh, right? Was that peaceful? A minister of the government was sitting right there in that vehicle with her driver and whoever else. And they blocked her, threatened her life and everything. Kosa police, chase police. Irfaan was right there. But yet he wants people peaceful, pretending, you know, pretending. The rum shop is open. The rum shop open. I see them. Right? Lemon, the rum shop open. Somebody open the rum shop door. Early in the morning, rum shop door open. Rum shop open. Early morning, rum shop open. Nayan Rodria. Hey, how are you doing, Nayan? You don't see. Of course, you're not going to see. But, when police were being shot at, when police were beaten, chopped up, nurses chopped up, school children was hurt, damaged. Of course, you wouldn't see that, right? Of course, you wouldn't see it. But when you see a presidential candidate back then surrounding a vehicle and threatening police and threatening and endangering the lives of the occupants of that vehicle, of course, you're not going to see anything wrong with that, right? Of course, you're not going to. Here's another little rum shop dweller. You rob people, are you? Gosh, what exactly is that person saying, man? But enough of that sort of distraction. We're not into that. We see what they're about. We know what they're about, and that's why I'm saying the rum shop open early in the morning, early o'clock. Rum shop dwellers are out in full force this morning because the truth is hurting them. And now, before I close off, let me say, but before I do, I saw an interesting post by, well, before I get to that interesting post, this was something in another news site, Guyana Truth and Facts. It's breaking news. 2 vehicles allegedly owned by Jumbo Jet passed through and shot at residents at Belladrum. Jumbo Jet, they seem to be powerful. If this is correct, they seem to be powerful, seem to have a lot of guns and all manner of things, and they feel that they're above the law, that they can do anything, right? And I hope the police would investigate this matter to find out what has really happened. Because you cannot have so-called businessmen driving in a village and shooting up in the air or wherever they shot up at. This allegation ought to be investigated, right? The other thing, my good friend Malcolm Harry Paul posted on his page. So Indians also looted. One Guyana, LOL. In other words, what Malcolm is saying is, look, everybody loots. Everybody looting. Everybody. It doesn't matter the ethnicity of individuals. They get good and bad people in every race, every religion, right? But what the PPP guys oftentimes love to do, is they love to paint persons of African descent as though they're bad. Persons of African descent, they're bad people. They're bad people, right? Bad people. And nobody seems, the rum shop dwellers don't want to correct that. They don't, because they love it, right? They love it. Nobody's going to talk about the money launderers and the ethnicity of the bulk of money launderers in Guyana. Nobody's going to talk about the ethnicity of the bulk of drug lords in Guyana and gun smugglers in Guyana and tax evaders in Guyana. Huh? You're looking at some guys with little balange and a broom, and one guy with 2 left side shoes in his hand, and they're walking on a bicycle with cassava and them kind of things. And meanwhile, these guys who are in office, right, are looting the wealth of the nation. Now, I'm not condoning that these guys grab something from Auntie Market or wherever they grab something from. No, I'm not condoning this at all. But look at the looters talking about looters and looting and protesters looting. And these guys are looting and raping the goddamn treasure every single day in Guyana, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're giving it to their goddamn friends and cronies. And they have this audacity to talk about persons of African descent. Them a loot, them a broke down thing, them a do this, them a all manner of things, huh? Give me a break, man. Give me a break, right? Give me a break. All right, what else quickly before I go? What else can we do? Let's remind you guys that Sue Jagdeo has promised that he's going to sue Up to now, y'all really think Jack they're gonna take legal action against Sue? Jack they ain't taking no legal action against Sue. They're not looking for Sue. Sue is probably out back in China already, and another Sue will take his place. That's it. It's just a public gimmick on the part of Jack Deo. All right. Hey, I've had my 2 cents. I spoke, and I'll leave you guys right here. The leader of the opposition. Before I go, the leader of the opposition. The leader of the opposition. All right, let me don't say anything. But I'm sure that Mr. Aubrey Norton will be back in Guyana very shortly and will be able to be on the ground to offer leadership to the people on the ground. It is needed. It is badly needed at this time. The people need leadership in that country. They don't have leadership at all. None whatsoever. And so Aubrey Norton has to drop whatever he's doing, stop sipping at Sip and Chat, and head back to Guyana. I heard from the opposition leader this morning, and I'll just leave it as that for now. Guyana is in need of help, lots and lots of help. The PPP is destroying that country. They're continuing on the path where they have left off and destroying Guyana. That is where they are. And those of us who speak out will have to continue speaking out. All right, here's where I'll bid you guys farewell until some other time, hopefully very soon. God bless you. Continue to pray for that beautiful country. Continue to pray for our people. Continue to pray for peace and for all Guyanese to live as one people, one nation, with one destiny. We're all Guyanese. Do not allow yourselves to be divided by Irfaan Alis of the world, by the racist agenda, by the PPP. Do not allow yourselves for that to be the case. God bless you, and God bless that beautiful country. So long.
Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will light up tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good.